Welcome to another episode of the School Podcast. This episode is slightly different because this is a throwback episode from about 4 to 5 years ago. It was never released, but I was sat down with Andy Buck for the second ever School Podcast episode. Well, it was dreams to reality back then. However, the time is now to release it. Is it dated? Nah, not really. Do I like the way I perform in it? Probably not. But here we are anyway. Enjoy it. It's stacked with value. And let's go. Mr. Andy Buck, what's going on? How are you?
Very good to see you again, Cam. I can't believe it. What have I done to deserve this this honour of this legend in our house, which we've been living in for a week?
A week.
Yeah.
We need to stop doing this on a Friday afternoon / Friday evening as well. It's getting slightly weird now, Andy. Yeah. But you've been so busy, and well, we've both been very busy since the last time we've done this, right? I think we met at a podcast last time. I also came to your conference.
Yes, well, you did more than come to it, to be fair.
Which was fun. We come back to that.
Yeah.
Then also we obviously had lockdown for about 6 months and everything going on. And also, what else has happened?
Wrote a book. Yeah.
And I've personally read this book, The Basic Coaching Method. And today, I don't really want to dive so much into your whole school experience. I feel like we've done that last time. So what I really want to do is just talk a bit about this book. I want to still touch on leadership, but also coaching as well, because it's a transition that I feel I've had recently, where we said before, I just felt like I turn up, do the 1 hour session. But now I actually, even though I did a course at university and stuff, I actually label myself a coach. And there were so many things I learned in this book which really, really resonated with me. With that said, can we get into it? What inspired you to write this book?
So I think we need to wind back to about 2010.
Okay.
Because I was a bit of I'll be honest, a self-confessed cynic about coaching. I kind of thought it was all a bit warm and fluffy and not really, had no edge or bite to it. And then I had a coach, and I suddenly thought, goodness me, this is changing everything for me in receipt of this coaching. And it coincided with, at the same time, I was going from being a head teacher looking after one school to working, not in a line management sense, but working with another head of another school she'd just taken over. It was a really difficult school. Yeah. So effectively, I had to work to support her, but I didn't know how to do it. And I did it for about 2 months, and I thought, blimey, this isn't working. And so I found some training. London Challenge, as it was then, was running this training, which included a lot on coaching, and then that just opened my eyes to it. So then for the last 10 years, I have probably had, 20 hours of like really serious coaching training and about 600 or 700 hours of practice at doing it. And
that's amazing.
And the reason I wrote the book was a bit like the reason I wrote Leadership Matters, which is that, what I tried to do with Leadership Matters was take all this stuff that's out there on leadership, and there's so much, and try and make sense of it for busy people, not just school leaders with the basic coaching method, actually, although lots of school leaders are reading it. It's designed for people with their children, with their family. My Uncle Peter, who's just gone back into hospital today, sadly, because with COVID and everything else, it's very difficult. But I've been using coaching with him a lot, as you'll know from reading the book.
Yeah. Which I liked, by the way.
Oh, having Uncle Peter story.
Having that personal element to it as well.
Yeah.
I think that showed a lot, and it showed vulnerability on your part as well. I think it added that.
But I wouldn't have been able to do that 5 years ago. I wouldn't have been able to think in that way. So I wanted to take all this stuff from all these different coaching books and, inspirational people like Michael Bungay Stanier, John Campbell, and the originator of it all, John Whitmore, who came up with the GROW model. But as I write about in the book, there were things that I thought that for me just didn't quite work. So with John Whitmore, GROW, the most well-known coaching model, starts with G for goal. What's your goal? And I suddenly thought, after doing 500 or 600 hours of coaching, most of my conversations don't start with that. Most of my conversations start with, what's going on? What are you really proud of that you've done since the last time we spoke? What's a challenge for you at the moment? Or just, Michael Bungay Stanier, fantastic opening question. What's on your mind? Really neutral, calm, not judging in any way. I'll just turn that off.
It's all right.
And so I kind of thought, you need to start with background. You need to know where people are. Hence the basics. So the book, although it's called Basic Coaching, is not basic. It's just using basic as the word, background, aim, strategy, implementation, commitment as a structure for conversations. And then the rest of it is about other ways that you know how you, what it's like to talk to you, basically. So, but that was, I mean, it was a combination of two things. Been mulling this over for a while, and COVID, which I suddenly thought, right, okay, so I can sit here. I lost, you'll probably know this feeling too, but I lost like 3, 4, 5, probably 6 months worth of work just suddenly in the space of 2 weeks. Like just disappeared. The diary, it was like a ghost town. Everything was just disappearing. And I was thinking, well, I can really mope about this, because when you're freelance and you know what this is like, that's not great. So I thought, right, well, now's the moment, and I actually really enjoyed it.
I was ready to bring my family to Derby and move in with Andy Butt outside. You up for a 6-month podcast? But look, can I quickly just go back, because I don't want to forget. Why do you think you had a bit of a negative perspective on coaching, say back in 2010? Was it because we had this whole kind of movement of being a life coach and I can change your life, and there was kind of LinkedIn was bombarded with it, and it still is. I mean, I receive 2 messages a day probably from people saying, do you want to get high ticket coaching? I'm like, a client, sorry. And it's like, actually, if you're not very good at coaching, then you're not going to get high ticket, and there's no longevity to it. But why do you think you had a bit of a negative?
I think probably it was about, because coaching, you were talking about the link between leadership and coaching, and there's a massive link, and Daniel Goleman's work about leadership styles, one of the leadership styles is coaching leadership style.
Of course.
And I think I just wasn't very good at using the coaching leadership style, and I kind of thought it just takes too long and it's a bit warm and fluffy. I was much more about like being directive or being pace setting. Leadership's about leading from the front, setting the example, follow me, do what I'm doing, keep up with me, do it as well as me. That sense of, if you want to make change happen in schools, you've got to do it quickly, and everyone's got to you've got to know what to do. And I think what I've learned is, yes, there are times when that's absolutely what you need to do still, but that if you really want to build a great school, then it's about empowering others, it's about helping others grow and develop. And so I suppose it really kind of reflects my journey as a leader, really understanding that you need to know who you're working with and really think about what do they need. Now they might need, if the fire alarm went off now, we wouldn't be sitting here having a conversation. Let's just discuss this, and should we have a coaching conversation about which door to exit? It's like, we need to go out of that door now. That would be a very directive, or probably pace setting. I'd be in front and saying, follow me, keep up with me. Whereas, for someone who's really experienced or who's doing a really great job, you do that and they're going to think that you don't trust me, stop micromanaging me. And so I guess it's combined with actually a bit of an awakening around the power of just asking questions and seeing what happens.
Let's talk about them. Questions. What is a good coaching question?
That's a great question, by the way.
I know.
But what you've done there, this is like last time, what you've done there is actually model a really great coaching question, because you could have said, is this a good coaching question?
So
and so what you did there, number one, is it's very open, right? So and it also started with what. So my 2 favorite words for starting a coaching question sentence are what or how.
What, how?
Because if you start with what or how, they have to think, and you're not pointing them in any direction. If you said could or would or should or is it or might you, then what usually follows that, in somewhere buried in there, is a suggestion. In other words, it's a kind of what we might call a leading question. And they're not so good. So that would be the first thing. Open questions. You're thinking about this. I'll just pause. What were you thinking?
I guess also, as you said, should, could, it kind of breeds a level of uncertainty as well, and it just provides a yes or a no answer.
Yeah, exactly.
So you don't really...
Classic closed question. Could you do this? Yeah, I could do that. I mean, if you've interviewed people who just give you, you'll know. Whereas your question was a really good question, because it was it was very open. It just forced me to think and say something more than yes or no. There was no yes or no answer to that. The second thing that makes a good coaching question is one where as you were, where you're kind of curious and interested rather than judging.
I got you. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. So if you'd started, I mean, when you've got a relationship with someone, you can get away with this. But as you're building relationship, if you start a question with, why did you do this?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, the person's sort of thinking, oh, he doesn't think I should have. She doesn't think I should have.
Uncertainty again.
And you're back to that uncertainty. And then the person starts to like get a bit defensive or just clams up. You know, you get fight, flight or freeze. So those sorts of open questions, those questions that are quite neutral. So like the difference between what's on your mind and what's the problem you'd like to talk about today. They both start with what, but one is curious and interested. The other's kind of like thinking you're going to have a problem. And like the person thinking, oh, you think I always got a problem? That's the beauty of that very neutral question, what's on your mind? Which is also very good.
At what point does somebody become uncoachable though?
Oh, I have coached a couple of people where
because if you're being coached, you have to play the game. Like you do have to, you have to be open-minded, right? And obviously, I know the B is background, and I guess you would establish that in that moment when you're trying to establish what the background is, where they're currently at. And
well, there's almost like a stage before that actually. Okay. Which is the first time you coach with someone is you kind of like need to agree what the rules are. And like what it is and what it isn't. So I'm always very clear it's not counselling, it's not therapy. I'm always very clear it's confidential. And people have to trust you that you mean that when you say it, because as soon as someone thinks you're reporting back to potentially the person that's commissioned you to do it. I mean, I've done work in multi-academy trusts where I've coached all the head teachers and the CEO, or in a school where I've coached the head teacher and all the senior team, and they're all telling me stuff. I know more about those organisations or schools than anyone in them as a single person, because they tell me stuff because they trust me, and I've been going to some of those places for 6 years, because of that relationship that's built up.
So if it's not counselling, if it's not those things there, what is coaching?
So coaching is, if I was coaching
we're going everywhere, sorry.
No, it's fine. It's what happened last time. If I'm coaching someone, I'm helping them work out what they need to do to move forward. And if I can get them to work that out for themselves, then great. Because the other thing that's different about the basic coaching method
I know what you're coming to.
Okay, this thing of if you can't coach them to do it, there's absolutely nothing wrong, and don't feel guilty about making a suggestion or telling them what you think, because
otherwise you just keep asking questions.
Yeah, you can do that till you're blue in the face, and you're just and it's as painful for you as it is for them, to be honest, because they're sitting there thinking, look, you've got a thought about this. Why don't you just flip and tell me?
What could you do? I don't know.
Yeah.
But if you do know,
So I don't. So this is why it's called ask first.
Yeah.
You always ask first, and I'll always push people, but and I'll want to get something out of them. But if I'm thinking I've got a thought, or sometimes it's just like a model that might help them. I've got a leadership model that might help them map out, or a framework that might help them think about the thing that they're thinking about. Or if they're managing change, I've got like the checklist, checklist for change from Leadership Matters. I might say, look, okay, so you've given me all these steps. Great plug. You can get it online as part of the Leadership Matters website.
Ding 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 ding.
Yeah. But the checklist for change, I might get that out and say, okay, which steps here have you got? So let's focus on the positive first. What else is there on there that maybe you could do that you haven't thought of? Not is there anything else? And that's another different question, because if you say is there, isn't there, yes or no, and we're back. You spotted it, you're back to the same thing. So what? And my favourite coaching question of all, Michael Bungay Stanier, is what else? What else could you do?
Oh yeah, that was actually one thing on your book which two main questions I've not considered was what else and what's on your mind. Two of those questions.
My name is Sian Lord, and I help deliver the Girls Growth Programme, a programme that helps deliver impact for teenage girls, ensuring that they're happier and healthier on their school journey, with a big focus on relationships, friendships, body image, self-esteem, mental health and mindset.
I'm Natalie. I'm one of the leaders for our Girls Growth Programme, where we discuss important issues such as self-esteem, diet, exercise and confidence. Think of 3 unhealthy habits that you have for yourself at this moment in time. And when you don't get enough sleep, it's harder to regulate your emotions, and small problems can seem much bigger than they are. Exercise isn't just about looking good or staying fit, it's vital for your mental health.
So get in touch today to get the support that your girls need now.
And what else? I think I tried it like quite often, and
Yeah.
it's so direct, so straight to the point.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, and they're doing the work. The other thing is, like, when you're not quite sure what's happening as a coach, or you're not quite sure what to answer,
It's a bit of a lifesaver.
It just buys you a bit of time. Just between you and me.
Yeah, this happened today.
Yeah.
Broke my back. What else?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. But yeah, those two questions were actually great questions. And the fact is, I love these ideas of questions, because you can use it in sales, use it in coaching, in speaking, in everything, and even at home. Like, babe, what do I need to do to get a drink? When would be a good time? No, yes or no? When would be a good time for you to get up off the sofa and go get me a shot? Where did you get this passion, though? Like, you have to have a passion for coaching.
Yeah.
I know your whole experience of schools, leadership, but to write a book, Andy, on coaching, and to have that level of confidence of what you know.
Well, I know the answer to that. It's just just really good. I was just really good, well trained. So I did growth coaching, which is a really good training program. It started off in Australia, and they were kind enough to invite me to go and speak at their conference in Melbourne. So that's the nicest gig I've ever had. Yeah.
You lucky bugger.
But making that link between coaching and leadership styles. But they're thinking about
How was
leadership.
that?
Oh, it was amazing.
And
Do you know where we did
flying
it?
across the world.
We flew across the world, and then went to, in Melbourne, there's this big stadium
Stadium as well.
called the. Oh God, I can't even remember it. There's something BCG or something, but that's the jab you get in your arm when you're 14, isn't it? CGI. No, that's what you do with films.
No, TSP.
Anyway, it's this massive cricket ground. It's really famous in Melbourne. Does Dave know?
What is the jab you get in your arm? I still got the mark on my
BCG,
arm. Not.
isn't it? You've got the BCG, yeah, and then you see if you react or not, and then you have to have another one. Oh. Sure, it should be BCG.
Maybe in your back in your
Okay,
day.
different. Oh, thanks very much, mate.
No, the TV.
Do you remember cassettes, by the way? You don't remember cassettes, do you? Where you have to put the
I
pencil
literally,
through.
guys, you can't see it, but Andy's got about 10 actual old videos. Are they called videos now?
VHS videos, yeah.
I've not seen one of those for.
No, they're just part of. We're still clearing up with moving house, so yeah, stuff's coming out. But
yeah, talk back to Melbourne.
oh yeah, so yeah, so growth coaching, that company, really really good. And then I did a 5-day training program with an organisation called Q Learning, who are based in Henley, and did the ILM 7 Institute of Leadership and Management 7. Like master's level training, and
Is it 5
combination
days,
of those.
Or
No,
5 days?
5 days of face-to-face training, but it was over like about 2 years with all the practicing.
Yeah,
and
because I'm
getting-
considering doing it.
Are you?
Yeah, because they do it at University West of England.
Okay,
near
yeah, no,
me.
it's really
They've got
good.
the level 5 and a level 7.
Yeah.
I've got the level 3,
Right. Okay.
but I'm thinking if there's a level 7, I
Yeah.
might as well try and do a level.
Yeah, no.
I don't know what I think it's who you coach.
It's the level of people you're coaching. So he won't mind me saying this, but one of the people I coached was Chris Husbands, who at the time
Okay.
was the director of education at the Institute of Education.
Wow.
He like ran the Institute of Education in London, and I'd met him and we'd become friends. And I asked him as a favour if I, because to do executive coaching, I've got to like coach top people like you, and he kindly said yes. But when he left, he's now at Sheffield Hallam as the Vice Chancellor at Sheffield Hallam University. But when he left, he was kind enough to ask me to his leaving do at the Institute and asked me if I'd say a few words. And
Wow.
so I was saying a few words, and I was reminding everyone and
Telling
him
everyone all his
of
secrets.
of the time when I was coaching him right in London. And I was really like a rookie. This is way back. This is like, I don't know when it was, but it was a long time ago. And he was really hard to coach, not because he didn't want to engage with the process, but he's just so clever. Chris is so clever. And so I was really having to think hard. And at one point he said, Andy, what you need to ask me now is this. And he told me what my next question was. So, yeah.
Was that hard, though, trying to do the level 7 course? And what I mean by that is, do you have to follow more of a structure?
No, No, it's an academic qualification that gets you to review lots of stuff, and it also allows you to think about what you think good coaching looks like. So they don't say you have to use one model.
I got you. I
And
didn't
in
know
fact-
if it was more like, okay,
No,
okay.
definitely not. And so that was great.
Is that one of the best coaching qualifications out there?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the growth coaching do some really good qualifications as well.
Yeah.
You can get accredited with them. I think in terms of value for money, I'd probably go for growth coaching because it's not as expensive, and I just think the actual quality of the thinking and the learning is good. I mean, you don't get a level 7, master's equivalent qualification. So it depends how much that bit of paper matters to you, I guess.
Yeah.
But in terms of how much I learnt about coaching, I'd probably say, I don't know, it's difficult because I did that one second, but and the ILM, lots of people deliver it. I guess it depends who does it as well, because they're just a franchise that other people work with. But I've tried to with basic coaching, in writing the book, people were then saying, Andy, do you do training? And of course it was COVID. So I've tried to plug the gap at the beginning of the continuum or the market for training. So I have an online program now.
Yeah.
It's £145 to get a qualification in this basic coaching method. So it is can you do this?
Yeah.
And there's 6 videos.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, this is quite new. So there's 6 videos. You get access to the videos, and you have to fill in a little journal reflecting on each coaching conversation, which is just good practice anyway.
Yeah.
And then you have to film yourself with someone who doesn't mind being filmed as well, of doing a 20-minute bit of coaching, and then you send all that to me, and then I decide whether or not.
Amazing, well done.
Yeah. So we've got
That's pretty cool, 'cause
I think there's about 100 people doing that at the
This
moment.
is self-published, right?
Yes, yeah. So it's been busy during COVID. I loved it.
Why
though.
did you decide to go self-published?
One, because I've got the
publishing?
time, and 2, because I just wanted to have the fun of doing it. So I love branding and stuff like that. So coming up with a logo and coming up with a company name, working out how to get so there's a barcode on the back of here. I know how to get barcodes on books now.
Are they real, or is it
It's
just
real,
for
yeah. If you
was
type
it just
that in,
for show?
if you type that in, it will come up. You bastard! How did you dare you say that? Is it real? Of course, it's bloody real. I can't believe you said that. Listen, just because you do that, don't tell me with that brush.
Did you just call me a bastard on my
I
own
think
show?
I did. And then I think I said something in the old days these days would be called racist, which is tarring someone with their own brush. That shows I'm showing my age now as well. So we might want to edit some of that out. Yeah.
So
So I did. Yeah, no, I did self-publish it.
let me ask you a quick question. No, carry on actually about the self-published, because I've just seen this. I don't want to miss it.
Yeah.
But why did you self-publish it? Why?
So I had time, but I also wanted to just learn how to do it, and I thought it can't be that difficult.
Was it?
No, it was. I mean, I'm not saying everyone can do it, but I know how to typeset to a standard, so I had to I did all that myself on Word, and then turned it into a PDF. But you've got to have an eye. You've got to have I mean, Oliver Cavioli was very kind to me. He said, "You've got an eye for like what stuff looks like." Which he's got a great design eye, way better than mine. But for him to say that to me was very nice, gave me a bit of confidence.
Yeah.
So I was designing the cover, designed the logo, Cadogan Press, which is like did a logo for that, came up with the name of it, learned how to do a barcode, get it registered in an ISBN number, all of that.
Yeah.
And then when it comes through the post, and like you think I've done everything to do with that book, it was really exciting.
What about like editing and stuff?
Right.
Because I guess if you get your book published, somebody checks it over, and
So I had someone who I'd worked with John Catt before, who they'd kindly agreed, who's become a good friend, called Peter Douglas.
Okay.
And he does a lot of copy editing for people like, I think he's doing some stuff for the Tony Blair Institute and various people. So he did it for me, like mates rates, I suppose. But and he's very good because when you've written stuff, after a while you don't see don't see everything because you're too close to it. So it's really important to have someone. But if it hadn't been him, it would have been my mum. Actually, she used to be an English teacher.
Really?
She would have gone through it with a dose of salt.
That's
actually,
amazing.
so yeah, you need to have someone else to do that. It's a really good question, actually.
before I get on to trust, I just want to quickly go back into the questions. And we was interviewing Martin Oliver from Outward Academies, and he said somebody who's before him, when it was kind of like a new year, what people tend to do is, what do we need to do this year? But the person actually, the question they asked was, what do we not need to do this year? And I found that so powerful because, especially for me, I'm always thinking, okay, we need to do this, this, and this, and this. But actually, I don't have the capacity to do it all.
Yes.
So what do I actually need to drop, which is stressing me out and stuff like that? And I just wanted to share that with you because I literally heard it today. And that resonated so much because...
So if you'd read the coaching, the basic coaching method after having interviewed Martin, a bit of the book that, because you don't remember everything you read, do you? A bit of the book that you read will resonate because one of Michael Bungay-Stanier's fantastic questions is, if you're saying yes to this, what are you saying no to?
Love that.
And it's a very human question. All these questions are very human. It's not like saying, so how are you going to prioritise this?
Say that again.
If you're saying yes to this, what are you saying no to? And it's so important in schools in particular, because we're always like the new, something else comes along and we just say yes to it. And we just keep saying yes, and the whole thing, in Leadership Matters, I talk about the idea of a MIC review, which I picked up from Glenmore and Winton School down in Bournemouth. A guy called Richard Coe taught me this, and carrying out a MIC review, which is something, I don't know if they still do it, but they used to do every half term with all their staff. They'd get their MIC review email, and it says, M, what do we want to do more of? What would you like to have more time to be able to do more of? I, what do we need to include? In other words, what have you found out or learned or whatever you think that we should be doing that we're not? C, what do we need to change? In other words, what's not quite working at the moment needs a tweak. And then K, what do we need to kick out? What is like taking a lot of time and not giving much of a result? It's that kind of bottom left quadrant of a kind of prioritization grid, stuff that has very little impact and takes a lot of time. Why on earth are you doing it? Well, usually because someone else has asked us to. So asking that question, what are we going to stop doing? Brilliant.
Yeah, and once again, Martin said something similar, and he actually asked the question why. But I guess the relationship was there first.
Yes.
Or he's like goes around a school when it might be taken over a school. Okay, why is it like that? Why do we do it like this?
Yeah, and
and then actually it comes down to I don't know, and then they realise actually a person back in 1987 made it, and it's not relevant anymore.
I mean, the way I would tend to ask that question is, talk to me about this. And then that warms them up to
Martin.
it. Yeah, talk to me about this. And then I'd say, so why is it like that then?
Yeah.
Because it can be, someone like Martin, he's a formidable character and he's in a hugely powerful role. And, when I was managing director at United Learning, there were about 40 schools I was responsible for. I used to rock up at a school and I was thinking it's just me coming along, to have a look at the school and to talk to people. But I remember once I went to a school and I was just like waiting in the reception area, and there were these double doors that opened into the corridor, and as the doors opened there was the school choir giving it some, and I thought I just happened to have arrived at the time when they were having a rehearsal or something. No, that was for me. And it was like, what? And you forget.
Yeah, you do.
You forget.
I think I forget as well, because I feel, to be fair, I do invest a lot of time and money into the podcast, but I sometimes think, why are these people giving me their time? Doing the podcast, and you think we've had people like...
Well, I'm wondering that on a Friday night. Why have I got you here? I'm supposed to be going out for a curry, mate.
It's funny because you are my plug-in to every single guest I have. Listen, I've had Andy Buck on, so you have to come on. I've had Hillary.
Okay, let's get back on the coaching.
Hillary for Ambition. You name all of these different people. And I'm like, wow, but it's true, because once again, your name, everything you've done in your lifetime in education, not just coaching, it builds trust. And they're like, if it's good enough for Andy, it's good enough for me. Well, but that also says that
you're embarrassing me now, Cam.
Oh God, I'm blushing now. All right, talk to me about building trust then. How do you build trust?
Access Education software is there for those busy school days, for the chaotic mornings when getting out of bed without a coffee can feel impossible. We're there for the multitaskers, for the cashless lunch payments, the fussy eaters, and the ones that always forget the school trips, the letters home and the countless emails. And we're there for the teachers, making sure everyone's paid accurately and on time. And we're no stranger to the world of education-related pensions. We're there for the time off, whether you choose it or whether it chooses you. We're here for those looking for the best, for those focusing on developing and empowering themselves and others, and for those looking to build their teams. We're there for those tasked with keeping the budget in check in challenging times, for those planning the recommendations to governors, for budget monitoring and those that need to report on adjustments throughout the year, for those planning the next budget and the next and the next for the years to come. We're here for the information seekers, insight detectives and real-time data warriors, for those that need accurate reports generated in minutes. We're here for the children, for those that want thousands of award-winning, easy-to-digest learning videos across more than 30 subjects in multiple languages, for the anxious exam takers, and for every single person that wants to make education great. Once the school day is done, we'll still play our part. We're still there for updates and to keep parents informed, and for those homework assignments and all-important grade boosts. We're still there for the governor meeting and the parents' evening, the after-school clubs and the extracurricular classes. And as for the hard-working teachers and staff, we're here, hoping you can find a little extra time in the evenings to unwind. So when the day comes to an end, teachers, parents and children across the land can rest easy, knowing that Access Education software will be there tomorrow to lend you a hand. Access Education, giving you the freedom to put education first.
Okay, I think there's probably two things.
Go on.
There's probably two things. Number one, people need to think you're, putting it bluntly, decent. Like you're honest, you're open, you're transparent, your intentions and your motives are honourable. And I used to think that was kind of why people trusted me and I trust them. But there's a whole other side to this, and I'm drawing on thinking of Stephen Covey here, who's written a fantastic book called The Speed of Trust, because the other part of trust is are you competent? Do you know what you're doing?
Yeah, we've got character and we've got competence. Yeah,
exactly. And so the best way, I don't know if I write about this in the book or not, but the story that he tells, and it's a great story. I mean, this will be interesting actually, Cam. Imagine you and me, right?
Yeah.
At the North Pole. And we've been on an expedition for a week, and we've been
Friday
training
night.
on a Friday night. And it was Saturday morning, was like the final push to get to the North Pole. And on this occasion, I was leading the expedition. And over dinner, you come up to me and you say, Andy, I don't know if I should go, mate. I don't know if I can do it. Should I go? And I could say to you, yeah, Cam, you're going to be fine. Right? Well, there's some things going on in your head when I say that. Number one, you're thinking, is he being straight with me? Is he being honest with me?
Love it, mate.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And number two, let's just assume I am being honest with you. I'm not welching out on that difficult conversations because I don't want to upset you. I genuinely think you can do it. You're also consciously or subconsciously thinking,
is he good enough to take me?
Does he know if I can do it? And is he good enough? Has he brought people like me back alive? So there's that whole thing about competence.
Do you have to have character first and then competence?
Well, that's a really good question. I've asked this a lot when I've trained people, and obviously you want both, and I don't think it's an either or. If I had to say what you've got to start with, I think it's actually character.
Really?
Personally. Because, you can have really competent people, but if you don't trust their motives, will you follow them? But,
World-class question.
But I mean, it's one of those where I think it's not it's not an either or. If you want to be trusted, you need both, because if one bit's missing, you're not trusted.
Because when people think about trust, they just normally think about character, don't
Exactly.
They normally just think of integrity, honesty, openness, authenticity, right? Keeping it 100% real,
Yeah.
but
all of that.
Actually,
you need to know what you're doing. I mean, look at the difference between both of us when we started freelance. What we do now compared to what we did then. We know a lot more stuff. And it's very interesting because there's a lot of debate at the moment on leadership around leadership being not just about your behaviours, which is a little bit like your character. Leadership is also about knowing what's the right stuff to do. What does a good curriculum look like? What does good assessment in school look like? What does a good behaviour management system look like? You could be the best leader in the world and everyone trusts you, but if you don't know what you're doing, it's going to fall apart around you.
And it just clicked. And I think when you said about when I first started, do you know what? I had the character. I was caring, I had intent, I was honest.
Yeah.
But I necessarily probably didn't have the competence.
Yeah.
Because that takes time,
Well,
experience.
You had some, but not as much as you've got now.
Yeah. And then now, obviously, I'm getting to... Obviously, I still got so much learning and so much growing to do. But now I'm a lot more. I know what I'm doing. I found kind of my area. I found my niche. I know the students I want to work with. And I'm so confident now in that area because I've had results, all of these different things. So I absolutely love that. Could there be could there be the third thing on that? So you got character and competence.
Well, there's the third thing. If there was a third thing, that's equivalent, by the way, of what else?
Yeah, what else?
You just
did it,
didn't you? Which is good.
But that was a terrible question. Could there? I said.
So I could have said no, couldn't I? Yeah. So do you want to just do that again then, Cam?
So what else? We got character. We got competence. What else? What else do you need to build trust, Andy Butt?
And I think if I was to say a third thing, I would say this, which is. The book's called. So I reread the book, Speed of Trust, during COVID, during lockdown, and
after you published this book.
No, before.
I was going to say because
it's fed into. It would have been annoying. It would have been so annoying. And one of the things that I noticed was why the book was called Speed of Trust, and it's because you can speed up how quickly people trust you. And I thought, well, what do you mean? How do you do that? And it's so simple. So let's just imagine a situation where, you in terms of competence, it's about like replying to emails. So if someone emails you, right, you would want to like turn around that email within 24 hours, like as your minimum guarantee, if not before.
Course, yeah.
Yeah. So if I email you and you do that, then that's great. But if you were to say to me, Andy, when we're working together, I guarantee you'll always get a reply from me within 24 hours, right? So what you're doing there is you're signalling your intent. Then you do it. Then the person's thinking, oh yeah, Cam said he was going to always reply, and he does. Bloody hell, he does. Whereas before they might not have noticed that you're doing that. But actually, they trust you quicker because they think, oh, he's competent and organised and he cares about me because he said he would do that and he has. And sometimes as well, you can remind people, like I said I'd get back to you in 24 hours and I've done that every time, haven't I? Like, I promised to get back to you. Here's me getting back to you within the 24 hours. And so it's that sense of saying you're going to do something and then doing it just means that people trust you more quickly. So simple, but...
Does that also work for trusting yourself?
Oh, that's an interesting question. It might. Do you know? I don't know.
Doing what you said you was going to do. I know the last C, commitment.
Yeah.
And the more commitments we keep, surely we begin to trust ourselves.
Well, it's funny. So that's really interesting, actually, because like we're in the middle of trying to sort out all, what it's like when you move house, unpacking boxes, and I was saying to Kath, no, I've got to finish that room because I said I was going to get that room done and all those boxes done last night. So I stayed up until it was done. That made me feel good because like I'd stuck to it. She said, no, okay, go on, blah, blah, blah. So I suppose, I don't know. Whether it means I trust myself more or not, I don't know.
Throwing this out here, if you was in a relationship and the trust was abused, can you ever repair that relationship?
Right, okay. So much of that depends on the two people.
Okay.
But he also, and I think this is true. So getting people to trust you because of your competence takes a little bit of... Getting someone to trust you for your competence, like you can, so when I do a keynote, this is the best example. I'm trying to think of an example. When I do a keynote, the first thing I'll do is I'll like show my career history on a slide. It only takes 30 seconds, but people like quite quickly think, okay, so he's done quite a lot of jobs. He probably knows what he's talking about. You're building trust around competence quite fast. Was head of an outstanding school, da-da-da-da-da-da.
Like when, to be fair, that's what I've gone to now because I've been into some schools already. Yeah. And if I've got not a long period of time, I'll say to the kids, I've worked with over 300,000 teenagers in my career.
And they're like, whoa.
So you can say that I know what works and I know what doesn't.
Yes.
Your choice if you want to listen.
Yeah. Perfect. And that took 15, 20 seconds. Yeah. But you built a lot of trust around competence very quickly. It takes much longer to build trust around character. because like people say things, but do they do them? And it's the follow-up, and does that happen, which is why signalling your intent is a good thing so long as you follow up on what you're going to say. However, trust around character can be destroyed in an instant.
Trust around. Okay.
So you can take a long time to build trust, like, can I trust him? He's being honest with him, he's being straight with me, he's transparent. But if they find out that something you said to them, you've told something else different, or if they find out you've lied or let them down in some way, then they may never trust you again around that bit of trust around character. When it comes to trust around competence, we build that up quite fast, and maybe something goes wrong. Well, people are quite forgiving of that if they trust the character, because not everything's perfect in life. So you've kind of got a steep graph for competence, which then goes down like that, and trust goes up very slowly, but can drop in an instant, and sometimes never repairs.
Wow, steep.
Really, it's really interesting, and there are gender differences here as well. Research has shown that you're more likely to retrust someone if you're male than you are if you're female. Don't know why that is, but like women tend to be, if they'll trust people quicker, but if they're let down, then they're likely to not trust you at all again ever. Whereas men can be a bit more forgiving sometimes. I'm not talking about individuals here. I'm talking about overall, on average.
Yeah, it's fine. Talk to me about the drama triangle.
Okay.
Victim, rescuer, and villain.
Yeah. So this is something that when you're coaching someone who is talking about a situation, you might sometimes have in your mind that as a frame of reference for what might be going on. So you might have a situation where someone is playing the victim and saying, "Oh, my life is terrible, everything's awful." Someone else might be playing the role of I'm going to go in and rescue and help this person, and someone else might be being given the role of it's your fault and you've done this, and everyone's colluding with everybody else. So the victim and the rescuer are saying, yeah, they're awful. The villain is saying, oh, you're just trying to be really nice. And it's just a way of you trying to get your head around what's going on, because in the end you need the victim to take ownership of the problem for themselves and tackle it and deal with it for themselves. So that means they might need to confront the villain rather than feel that they're just sucking support from the rescuer. The rescuer may be doing that because actually that's fulfilling a need in them where they want to feel like they're valued and are helping people, but that's not necessarily healthy either. If you're doing stuff just because you need to be helping people, that's not good.
No.
You want to be helping people because people are going to benefit from your help, not because you're gaining from it. So it's just a kind of paradigm, and it links a little bit to kind of transaction analysis and the kind of parent-child relationship that you sometimes get in situations as well.
What is the difference?
It feels like I'm having a little exam now on my own book. I love it.
I'm fascinated with it, really. And it's just you're like, what's he going to say next?
I'm a bit nervous now. What's the next question?
What is the difference between strategy, implementation, and commitment? So obviously we've got a basic model, right? Background, aim, strategy, implementation, commitment. Until I read it, looking just at the model to begin with, which is on page 40 for everybody at home. But just, I thought, what is the difference between those three? They all appear quite similar, right? But what is the difference between them? So
the reason why they're separate is because quite often one of them can get missed out, and actually you need them all in order to move forward. So let's say you're having a conversation with someone and they've decided that, well, let's take the example of a teacher who you're responsible for in your team, and there's something that they're not doing. Maybe they're just not a very good teacher at the moment. Let's take that as an example. So your strategy is your high-level approach to solving that problem. Okay. So it's not exactly what you're going to do, it's your high-level approach. And it's really important to be aware of what that high-level approach is. So in that case, I think there are probably only two strategies. You're either 100% trying to help and support that person get better, so the children get what they deserve, or you're working with them for them to find a different job. For them to exit. They're your high-level strategies.
So is that kind of the how? Is the strategy the how?
Yeah, it is really. And then the what, is so your strategies you're gonna 110, and by the way, with teachers, they all deserve to have that first.
Yeah, of course.
Of course you're going to try and 100% support them.
Yeah.
Well, then the question is, well, what are you going to do then? And that's the implementation. So now sometimes people will rush to implementation without thinking about their overall strategy first.
So you got a background, then you got the goals, right? The goal is to earn 100 million a year.
Yes.
How can we do it? Here's your 5 ways of doing it.
Yes.
And then the implementation is, what are we going to do?
Yes, and if you've got those 5 ways of doing it, then, Alistair Campbell in his book Winners says what the real people that really succeed do is, when it comes to strategy, for any objective, they'll have one strategy. It's a little bit similar. Keep the main thing the main thing. What's our overall strategy for? So you might have those 5 things, or you might have got 4, and you say, what else could you do? And then you've got 5, and then towards the end of that section on strategy, you're saying, right, well, which of those 5 do you think is going to be the one that's going to really work for you, or which combination of
and then
2?
You pick one.
And then they decide, okay, so that's your strategy. We've done the high level. All right, so with that strategy, what's your first step? What do you need to do? What do you need to do next?
Yeah.
So that's when you come up with the plan. That's the implementation. And then you don't always need the C, the commitment. With some people, like I know, if I was talking to you about something, I probably wouldn't need the C, because the C is, are they going to do it? But sometimes when you're talking to people, if it's like they need to have a difficult conversation with someone, or like I'm just not really sure if you're...
I think it depends what it is, right?
It depends what it is, and it depends on the person. So, great question is, out of 10, what's the likelihood, what's the chances that this is going to happen by Thursday? That's when you said you want to get it done by.
Yeah.
And if they come up with anything less than an 8, I'll be saying, okay, that's 7, that's not bad. What's stopping it being an 8? Because if it's less than an 8, they're probably not going to do it.
No. What else?
I think we might be coming to the end. I'm thinking of my curry, Cam. I'm thinking of my curry.
I just want to quickly, last one, right?
Yeah.
Stay positive.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
Listen, if there's anyone who I'm having a conversation with about the importance of staying positive, who needs to hear it, it's not you, because you know the power of positivity.
Yeah.
It's like it underpins, it's your strategy, actually. It's just looking at the positive here. But it's very easy when we're having conversations with people to forget to do it. So starting conversations will always with me be, whether it's feeding back and having a coaching conversation about a little lesson observation, or whether it's having a coaching with the Matt CEO. Okay, what's gone really well this week that you're really proud of, or since COVID, look back on what you've achieved. What are your top 3 things? Getting people framed to think positively is really important. It builds trust, it builds rapport, but also it just changes the way the brain is operating. You start to just get more, natural positivity in the thinking and the energy levels and everything. So, but you have to work at it, because we don't naturally do it. Secondly,
it's kind of like an energy, really, isn't it?
Yeah, completely. And Steve Radcliffe talks about it as being one of the energies. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, when people have got problems or challenges that they're looking to try and solve, it's not about you sympathizing with them, saying, oh gosh, it's awful, isn't it? It's a empathizing with them. Yes, it must be tough, but what can we do? So it's that sense of empathy and sympathy. The difference with empathy is there's a sense that there's something's possible, rather than sympathy, which is just, oh, poor you. And the last thing I would say is getting people to reflect back on, when have you been in a situation like this that's been similar, and what did you do that worked? This is a powerful question. One, because there's an assumption that you've done good things in the past.
Yeah.
And there's also getting them to think, and he thinks I'm good. All of those things.
I like that.
It's in the book.
I'm going to wrap up on that one then. Especially as we're all going out for a curry now.
Yeah.
But I just want to say, honestly, once again, Andy, massive thank you. I feel like this is going to be something we probably do quite regularly.
Yeah, I love it.
You're literally, can't feel like I can't say it because everyone else, but you are my favourite guest.
Oh.
And I think it's good if we can come and do a quick hour here and there. I think why not? I think if you're up for it.
Totally.
I just love being around you. Again, it's that positive energy. It's everything you'll do, but you've also put in the work and you have that level of competence. And for me, it's inspiring to be around it, because it's like where I kind of want to go, if that makes sense. So once again, thank you.
Pleasure.
Best of luck with everything going on. New
Great.
home outside of London.
I know. Middle of Derbyshire. It's great. And thank you for coming all this way. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers.
So, everybody, I'm going to ask you, what's on your mind? See what I've done there?
I love it.
And if this book is not on your mind and you're not going to head over to Amazon, click it and buy it, then there's no point you even being here. And if you're there thinking, what else? Here's what else. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And remember, there's 2 tables. One with excuses and one with results. Results. You can only have one, but you cannot have both. Once again, guys, what a beautiful day here. We've been everywhere, traveling the UK, making the Dreams to Reality podcast a massive success, interviewing everybody and delivering as much impact and value as we possibly can. So until next podcast, thank you so much. And until then, peace.